Our next guest has had a busy 24 hours, and I say busy 24 hours. He's really had a busy 2020 and early 2021 as we welcome in Hunter Yurachek, Arkansas Athletics Director, into the program. Hunter, really appreciate the time this morning. I know with the press conference yesterday, the interview requests you've had, you've been extremely lacking time. So appreciate you joining the Morning Rush with all of our listeners this morning.
Hope everyone is doing well.
I'll start with kind of the big news that came out of yesterday with the Arkansas State news, and I know there was other games scheduled, UAB being scheduled in 2024, UAPB moving to Little Rock. With the Arkansas State game, I know that you have a friendship with Terry Mahajer, who's the athletics director at Arkansas State, and you mentioned this really kind of got moving over the holidays when you were talking with Secretary Hurst about getting this moving. How long have you had conversations with Terry and Secretary Hurst about this game that we now know is on the docket in 2025?
Terry and I talked about it when I first arrived here, because obviously it has been of interest and of topic across this state for long before I arrived. But we really started to pick up some steam after Coach Pittman and I talked following the season about our upcoming and future schedules and the importance to have as many conference games on campus as possible. And then really after the holidays, started planting that seed with Terry. He had a game on the date that was available for us in 25 with Texas A&M that he had to move, and he was very accommodating in doing that. And then, of course, Secretary Hurst, and the things that she kept coming back to is, hey, if we're going to move Southeastern Conference games out of Little Rock, we need to replace them with meaningful games. And I think that's what you see in UAPB twice, and then, of course, Arkansas State in 25.
Hunter, I know you mentioned on the outset of the press conference yesterday that Sam Pittman had voiced his opinion to you that it's so important for this football program to continue to play SEC games in Fayetteville. And I know when the news came out about UAPB and Arkansas State and Little Rock, people were asking the question, hey, what's the benefit of Arkansas playing these schools, particularly in War Memorial? So I'll ask this to you. What is the biggest benefit that you see continuing to play in War Memorial Stadium, and for that matter, to play Arkansas State now for the first time ever?
Well, one, we're the University of Arkansas, and we represent the entire state of Arkansas, not just Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas is where our campus is, where our home stadium is, our main home stadium. But Central Arkansas has been the home of the Razorbacks for 75-plus years. I mean, we still have a presence there with our men's basketball program, our women's basketball program, our baseball program, and many of our other sports are starting to play University of Arkansas Pine Bluff and University of Arkansas Little Rock, Arkansas State, and Central Arkansas. And so those games are important because our presence across the state as the flagship institution for the state is important. And so it's just not about Northwest Arkansas. We represent the entire state, and our presence in Central Arkansas is still important to very many people across this state.
Hunter Yurachek with us here on the Morning Rush. How much of a boost is this decision and these schedule shifts for the upcoming season when you're looking at ticket revenue, ticket sales? We're at that point in the calendar year where the foundation is getting correspondence and emails and letters out asking for people's thoughts and their commitments and their pledges. Adding that Missouri game for this year, how big an immediate boost is that for your department?
It gives us a solid home schedule for sure. We have 3 Southeastern Conference games. We've got Auburn, Mississippi State, and now Missouri and Fayetteville, and then you've got 2 old Southwest Conference rivals in Rice and Texas, and you had a really good Sun Belt team in Georgia Southern. 6 home games on our campus in Fayetteville, and it's going to give us an opportunity March 1st when we launch our 2021 football season ticket campaign to really drive that hard. And with the success that our football program experienced last year and the energy and excitement around Sam Pittman's football program, and then that game in Little Rock with Pine Bluff, I think is going to be really special. I visited with, now the interim AD, Chris Peterson, about bringing the band over and working to market to students there and their alumni base and create a kind of a celebration of football within the state of Arkansas. there at War Memorial Stadium when we play Pine Bluff. And it'll be the first time since the 40s that the Razorbacks have played anybody from the state of Arkansas in football. Everything
you just laid out for us there with all the detail, and particularly the home schedule, how big a motivating factor was that for you and your team to try to get this done on the timeline you've done it, to signal to fans that looked at the 21 schedule and thought, oh, this is a little light on SEC games, a little light on the quality of competition? How clearly you've been working on this, as you said, since the holidays. I would imagine that was a factor, you knowing what was coming on the schedule.
Well, it was. Again, we're trying to take a step in the SEC West and winning our division and getting to the SEC championship game. And we're going to have to climb that ladder one rung at a time. That's not going to happen overnight. But as I evaluated the football season and talked to Coach about the upcoming football season, that was one of the things that was really, really important to him. And my job as the director of athletics is to give not only Sam Pittman, but each of our head coaches the tools that they believe they need for their programs to be successful. And one of the tools that Coach Pittman needed in his toolbox was to have this Missouri game on campus.
Is it safe to say, safe to assume, is it fact that when the schedule and the series with A&M and Arlington comes to a conclusion, that deal is over? It seems like all the statements have been made. That's the direction we're headed with the Arkansas A&M series in Arlington.
I think Texas A&M and their leadership, Ross Bjork, their director of athletics, has been very clear that when that series contract ends in 2024, that they want that game back on campus. He was adamant about that this year during the COVID piece, or this past season during COVID. So I don't foresee, because of their stance regarding this game, that this game will continue past 2024 being at AT&T Stadium. And so, rotates back to our campus in 2025 after that contract ends. And so that'll be a game that we'll get the first opportunity to play Texas A&M in Fayetteville in 2025.
Hunter Yurachek with us here on the Morning Rush. We were talking about Sam Pittman a little earlier and how he kind of voiced his opinion, hey, we need to play these SEC games in Fayetteville. Hunter, on the note of Jerry World in 2025, and I don't have 2025, 2020, 30 schedules in front of me. Has Coach Pittman voiced his opinion on if it's important to continue to play in Dallas for recruiting purposes?
Yeah, I don't know that it's important to be there for a decade straight, but I think you may see some games pop up in the future where we participate in, whether it's Dallas or Houston or somewhere in those kickoff games that they have. But I think it makes sense for us to have a presence there. I mean, we're going to have a presence every other year just playing Texas A&M and College Station if that ends up being the case in the long term. So I don't know that we need a definitive decade-long presence there that we know, but to be there and pop on the map there periodically is probably not a bad idea.
Hunter, I know you were...
With that said, there's nothing in the works. I'm not spreading any rumors. Nothing in the works for any games in Houston or Dallas after 2025. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah. Okay. I know there might be some news that comes out later today on some football stuff. Hunter, Bob asked you a question yesterday. I thought it was a really good question about pushback from certain, whether it's boosters, board of trustee members, people within the athletics department, about moving on with this Arkansas State game. And I know now it was originally slated through 2024 to continue to play games in War Memorial Stadium. It's now 2025 with this game additionally. I wonder, kind of going off Bob's question, was there a pull, instead of a pushback, was there a pull from certain Central Arkansas Board of Trustees or boosters that said, hey, we need this game to continue for the money to keep flowing in from Central Arkansas, Eastern, Southern Arkansas? Did those questions, did those points come up when you guys were having these discussions?
When I had the discussions with people that I value their opinion, whether they reside in Central Arkansas or somewhere else in the state of Arkansas about this, because I've only been here for a little over 3 years, and so I don't have the entire history lesson or the background, not being from the state of Arkansas. So obviously there's some people that said, hey, this probably is not going to go over well, or, I don't agree with this decision, but I would support you if you made this decision. And so that was my answer to Bob, that there's not enough of a significant pushback where people just that were in significant positions or that have valued their opinions that said, hey, you just can't do this. Absolutely not. Most everyone was supportive, whether they disagreed with what the decision was going to end up being or not. They were supportive of myself and the decision and the vision we have for our football program moving forward.
So as we understand it, the schedule is now set and all the holes are filled through 2025. How many openings? What does it look like beginning 26, 27, moving forward for some non-conference flexibility and maybe extending the series with A-State or maybe adding UCA or another in-state school? You know, what are the possibilities beyond 2025 with your scheduling flexibility?
Yeah, I try to not get caught up on getting too far out in scheduling because I think you can put yourself in a box with some scheduling. I mean, you look at our schedule next year that was scheduled 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, we have Liberty, BYU, and Cincinnati on the schedule next year. 4 or 5 years ago, those probably look like good games to have on your schedule. I'm not sure the way those 3 programs are going.
Yeah.
That's a really tough schedule for us, and so I'm trying to get too terribly far out. But one of the things that we focused on is being very regionalized in our scheduling, so there's an opportunity for our fans to be excited about the games and for the visiting team's fans to be excited about coming to our venue here in Fayetteville, and our fans to be excited about going there. So when you look at, we've got Memphis on future schedules. We have Tulsa on future schedules. We're going to continue to try to schedule the likes of Oklahoma State, and because I think those are the types of games that get our fans excited. I don't know that our fans get excited about a San Jose State or a Portland State or Nevada and some of those games that have been on the schedule that really have no regional appeal whatsoever. And so, I mean, obviously Arkansas State falls into that regional appeal. But let's just get past the first game in 2025, evaluate how that is for everybody involved, and then we'll make some decisions on if it makes sense to play a second, third, fourth game in that series.
Yeah. Hunter Yurachek with us here in the morning, but everybody wants to answer today. And, that's the thing. Everybody wants to know today what we're doing 10 years from now. That's always the issue. Facilities-wise, the stadium's obviously, the best it's ever been, the recent $160 million expansion. You're working on finalizing the newest expansion at the baseball facility at Baum Walker. What is next on the horizon? I know there's a master plan. You guys are working through this. There's always fundraising. What is next on campus for your next big project?
Well, obviously, we're going to finish up the JB and John L. Hunt Family Baseball Development Center later this spring, and then we've got the Frank Amir Track Center that'll finish up later this spring. We'll probably take a deep breath. Prior to COVID hitting, we had completed a feasibility study on a renovation to Bud Walton Arena, and I think that venue now 26 years old. As we look into the crystal ball, is probably the next big facility project that we're going to address. I don't have a timeline for when that is. Obviously, COVID has put a kink in all of our lives, and that feasibility study is very much on the back burner right now. But to ask a question about kind of what that next project is, and I think it's some type of renovation to Bud Walton Arena in the next 3 to 5 years.
Hunter Yurachek with us. 1 or 2 more questions, Hunter, before we let you go. Whether you want it to be attached or not, this decision to play Arkansas State in War Memorial Stadium in 2025 is going to be attached to your legacy here at Arkansas. We talked about this a little earlier. Nolan Richardson Court, letting go of Morris and Anderson, bringing in Muss and Pittman. That's going to be attached. And I know that you've just had a flurry of things you've been doing lately, but kind of those are the big decisions that have been made early on in your tenure. Have you felt like those big decisions have been well receptive by the majority of fans, by the majority of people that you've talked to at this point?
Gosh, that was a whole list. I hadn't gone through that litany in my history, but that's been quite a 3 years, hasn't it?
You've been busy.
I believe so. I mean, I think obviously the naming of Nolan Richardson Court was significant to a number of people associated with the state of Arkansas, the University of Arkansas, and our athletic program. And that was a really, really special day. I still remember standing on that court, and it really brought me to tears how much that meant to Coach Richardson and the people that were there. Obviously letting Chad Morris and Mike Anderson go really, really tough decisions for sure, especially Mike Anderson because of his ties to Coach Richardson and how long he'd been here in his tenure and how special he was to people across the state of Arkansas. So I think all of those decisions have been well received. But, guys, what I really want, I know my legacy will be based on those decisions, but I do this for our student athletes, and we have 465 student athletes in 19 sports, and that's the icing on the cake for me. And the decisions I make, I hope I make in the best interest of those student athletes that we have on our campus right now and the student athletes that will come in years that follow. And that's why I do what I do. And, I want my legacy to be that I made a difference in the lives of young men and women as a director of athletics here at the University of Arkansas.
Hunter, before we let you go, I know you're joking a little bit about the possibility of playing a game in Dallas or Houston down the road after 2024. If you need a suggestion, call Bill Moose at Nebraska. I'm telling you, Nebraska, Arkansas, and Jerry World. It's not a bad idea. Just think about it.
He needs your suggestions here. Yeah.
Just think about it.
Duly noted.
Hunter, appreciate your time this morning. I know, again, you've been extremely busy, so I know a lot of our listeners, as well as Tommy and I, appreciate you taking time to join the Morning Rush.
It's my pleasure, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do for sports in our community.
And we're all wishing for full venues this fall, right? that's the main thing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But everybody's got to do their part. Go get your vaccination, wear your mask, and we're going to get through this.
All right.
Amen. Thanks, Hunter.
Good chat. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.